Sometimes blocks are more complicated than they seem. This block, for example, is not only a dynamic block. It is also a block that contains multiple blocks nested inside. Nesting blocks inside other blocks adds complexity, but it can be very useful. We see, for example, that these three ovens use the same screen component. The advantage of nested blocks is that if we replace this component in one oven, all the others will be updated. In the past, just like in AutoCAD, we would need to explode the parent block to access the nested blocks and modify their definition. This approach was painful, because sometimes we would find multiple levels of blocks nested in other blocks. In this case, we must explode the oven block to finally reach the display screen. Saving the changes will update the block everywhere it is inserted. After all this, we should rebuild all the blocks we have exploded. While this approach is acceptable for simple cases, it can quickly become a nightmare. And in our example, we would even break our dynamic block while exploding it. The new block structure palette makes it much easier. So let's go back and see the difference. At first, this palette enables you to easily explore the structure of a block, so you can edit any of its nested blocks individually, without exploding anything. Additionally, right-clicking on a block reveals a menu with various options, such as Delete, Rename, or Insert. This allows us to insert this nested block independently from the others that compose the more complex block. It should be noted that the block we just inserted is the same as the nested one, it's just used differently. Now we can edit it as desired. And when we save the changes, we are modifying the definition of this block and all its instances, regardless of where they are being used. Therefore, we see the nested block updated. Of course, the same block can be reused within others as many times as needed. Now we can delete the block we inserted to make the changes. In fact, the palette allows us to do this directly, but you will likely find it easier from within the drawing. The block structure palette opens up new opportunities for blocks and their organization. Now we can create more complex elements without compromising our ability to edit them efficiently afterward. The palette also allows you to activate or deactivate the display of information about the blocks. You can also obtain a preview of the blocks from the palette. This other icon is used to reload the blocks if necessary. We also have the ability to turn off or activate the display of nested blocks. Now that the concept is clear, let's make a more advanced example with 3D blocks. By the way, there is another way to activate or deactivate the block structure palette. You can enter the command block structure or use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl+8. As we can see, the block structure palette shows us a complex hierarchical tree of elements. Double-clicking on a block will show us its location in the drawing. Within the tree, we can select several sub-items at the same time by holding down Shift. This method can be used to turn off several of them at the same time, or activate them. Additionally, you can move blocks within the structure, changing their hierarchical order. This feature simplifies the process of reusing design elements and maintaining coherence in the drawing. Also, as you can see, this same function can be applied to both 2D and 3D blocks. As shown in our previous example, we can insert an element in the drawing and then do the editing. When saving the changes, we see how it affects the rest of the blocks where this element was nested. The use of the block structure palette can have endless industrial applications. It might remind you of the mechanical assemblies typically used in 3D CAD software. It can, for example, prove very useful in designing appliances, furniture, and any other element containing standardized parts.